Hi, this is Mr. Cho. How are you doing? So today we're going to learn chapter 6 from Science Biology, Nutrition in Humans. Okay, this is applicable for Express Biology as well as NA Biology. Okay, let's jump into it. Before we do, I want you to turn your textbook to page 80. Alright, now I want you to take out your notebook and draw this table. Okay, what you know about nutrition in humans, what you want to know, and we'll fill this in after the lesson. Okay, so what you want to know, or what I know about human nutrition. Okay, so for example, I know the functions of the mouth. Okay, so this is tied to your chapter in Sec 2, where you learn about the digestive system. You've learned about the mouth, stomach, small intestine. So I'm sure that you recall some of the knowledge. Okay, take some time, pause the video and do this. Once you are done, you can resume the video. Okay, so I think that you have written down what you know, what you want to know, and hopefully you're able to cover what you want to know in the lesson. Now let's talk about your favorite food. Okay, think about it. What are your favorite food or your favorite cuisines? Do you like Japanese cuisine, Korean cuisine, your Indian cuisine? Share with your classmates or with your parents what you like to eat. And now let's think about the question. How do we convert the food that we eat into energy and useful products that our body can use? So this is the points that we'll try to answer throughout this entire chapter. Now let's look at these pictures over here. So we can see there's tea. This is called ratatouille. It's a French dish. This is the cereal. This is some kind of Middle Eastern food, and this is, I think it's lentil rice, some Chinese dumpling thingy, pizza, some kind of egg, and potato curry. Okay, so I think that all this food, right, looks appetizing. We would definitely wouldn't mind trying some of them, right? So let's think about it. Why do we need to eat? And that is the reason why we are studying this chapter. Okay, the learning outcomes for this chapter is as such. Right, we need to learn about the human alimentary canal, how we do chemical digestion, absorption and assimilation. So our learning outcome is this. Okay, we need to describe the functions of the main regions of the alimentary canal and the associated organs such as your mouth, salivary glands, esophagus, stomach, duodenum, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, ileum, colon, rectum, anus, in relation to these few keywords which I'll talk about soon. Then we need to talk about the function of the enzymes, amylase, maltase, protease, and lipase. Okay, so I think that this definitely is something that should be familiar to you. We also need to state the function of the hepatic portal vein in the transport of blood rich in adsorbed nutrients from the small intestine to the liver. And lastly, you want to state the role of the liver. Okay, so there's three roles: metabolism of glucose, metabolism of amino acid and formation of urea, and breakdown of alcohol. So, key questions. What is nutrition? And what are the organs of the alimentary canal? Okay, so first key question. What is nutrition? Nutrition is the process by which organisms obtain food and energy for growth, repair, and maintenance of the body. Okay, this obviously is quite intuitive, right? When you don't eat food, you don't have any energy. So if you don't eat, you feel very weak, you feel very hungry, your body is crying out for food. So this definition is found on textbook, page 80. Please highlight and study this. Okay. Now, the 5 stages of digestion. This is something important that we should take note of. Okay, so over here, we have a cat. Okay, I wonder how many of you own a cat at home. Now, for those cat lovers, you know that you need to feed your cat quite often, and that they really like a specific kind of food. Okay, so imagine that this is your cat. What are you going to feed it? Okay, so let's say you feed it some kibbles or something. When you feed it, when it's eating, the process is called ingestion. So the food is going into the body. So it's taking food into the body. Now what will happen after that is that the food will then be digested. So the process is called digestion. And digestion just simply means breaking down of food into smaller, simpler compounds. Okay, so over here you can see these are quite relatively big pieces of food, but after digestion, they become small molecules. Then, our body needs to absorb the food, okay, because if we don't absorb the food and all these food just pass out, then we are eating for no reason, right? We need to have a purpose for eating, and that purpose is so that the food can move into our body, so that it can reach the cells of our body, so that our cells in the body have energy and have the material that they need to grow. Okay, so that this is called absorption, and it's happening in the small intestine. Okay, so at the small intestine is absorbing the small molecules into the body. Then we have assimilation, which is making food part of the cell. So once the nutrient molecules enter into the cell, they will be used by the cell for growth and repair. Now, there will always be some leftover material or undigested material, things that our human body or the animal body is unable to digest, and this will be egested. So this is the fancy way of saying, passing motion. And what it means is that you are removing the unused food or unused material. Now, how do you remember these 5 keywords? Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, egestion. Okay, so how I remember it is with an acronym. I would say it's a great idea. Okay, of course, this guy is saying it wrongly. So idea, I, ingestion, D, digestion, A, absorption, A, assimilation, and E, egestion. Okay, so make sure that you know how to recognize these 5 key points. Take some time to digest this part of the video. Practice writing down these 5 keywords. Okay, pause the video and resume only when you're ready. Okay, let's just recap what we learned about the 5 keywords. Ingestion. Ingestion is food that is being taken into the body, which we just commonly would call it as feeding. Digestion means that the large food molecules are broken down by enzymes. Absorption means that the digested food products enter the blood from the small intestine. From the small intestine, the absorbed food will then go to the liver and then to the rest of the body. So it's like a chain of events. Okay, one thing leads to another. Then assimilation, where the absorbed food is converted into new cells, or is used to provide energy for cell activities. And 5th, undigested food is expelled from the body. Okay, so you may have seen this word alimentary canal, okay, but you may not be very familiar with it. So don't be scared. The alimentary canal is simply the parts from your mouth all the way to your anus. Okay, so when you look at a diagram of the human body, you notice there's a hole, right, at the mouth, and there's also a hole at the anus. So if you really think about it, us humans, we have a kind of like a continuous hole leading all the way from the mouth all the way down to the anus. So we kind of have a space within our body, and this space is called the alimentary canal. Okay, so there are organs associated with the alimentary canal. So there are many organs that we have to go through today. Okay, so starting with the salivary gland, the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, this sphincter, the pancreas, the small intestine, the large intestine, and lastly, and the anus. Oops. So let's look at all these different parts in more detail later. But for now, I just want to highlight these 3 points here: liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Okay, so these 3 are known as the associated organs. Okay, the rest of them, they are all part of the alimentary canal. So the mouth is part of the alimentary canal, the stomach is part of the alimentary canal, everything else is only these 3: liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. These are the associated organs. That means that they are not actually directly in the alimentary canal, but they are associated with it and they are working together with it. Okay, let's talk about the mouth. Now we know the mouth and we use it every day, so we are quite familiar with it, right? So we know that we have teeth that grinds food into smaller pieces. Now sometimes this is referred to as physical digestion, which means that we're using physical methods, which is just grinding, to break the food down to smaller pieces. Okay, so physical means that there's no enzymes involved. Second, the mouth produces saliva, which contains an enzyme, salivary amylase. Okay, so this enzyme amylase breaks down starch into simple sugars, which are maltose. Okay, let's look at this picture here. So we can see, wait, why is it not moving? Okay, we can see that there's a starch molecule, this long chain, and it's slowly being broken into 2 at a time. When it's only 2, then it's called as maltose. Okay, so look again, the starch is being cut, and it's only 2 of them, then it's called maltose. Now the pH of the mouth is neutral, or roughly near neutral, so it's about 7. So the optimum pH of the amylase should be about 7. After we swallow our food, the food enters into our esophagus. The ball of food then goes down by this process called peristalsis. So peristalsis, yes, it's a fancy word, but it just simply means alternating contraction and relaxation. So if you look at this GIF over here, okay, let's see. When it's moving, you can see there's slight waves around it. The top is pushing and the bottom is relaxing. So when the top pushes it down and the bottom relaxes, it can move down. So this process is repeated. It keeps pushing, and relaxing at the bottom all the way until it can reach the stomach. Now, sometimes the amylase from the mouth may continue to digest starch in the esophagus. Okay, but we can take it, if in exams, we can take it that there is no, okay, so I repeat, there's, in exams only, we can take it that there's no digestion in the esophagus. Now, the food then reaches the stomach, and at the stomach will contract and churn food. So when we see this word contract and churning, we will think about physical digestion. Okay, so remember, in the mouth, we grind, right? That's just a physical method. In the same way, when the stomach contracts and it churns, this part of the is just physical digestion. So it's just contracting and moving the food to break it down into smaller balls. But the stomach has 2 other things which is important. It secretes gastric juices, which contains protease, which is a protein that digests, it's a enzyme that digests protein. Okay, so it's a protein digesting enzyme. And it also secretes hydrochloric acid, which breaks down food and kills the bacteria. Okay, so let's look at Homer Simpson over here. So when Homer just ate, his food is being contracted, is churning inside the stomach. So this part is physical digestion. It's just moving the food around. But on the other hand, we also have gastric juices. So these gastric juices, this green thing, this has protease, which is an enzyme which will digest the proteins in the food, as well as hydrochloric acid. Okay, so this hydrochloric acid helps to kill the bacteria in the food. So that is how our body protects us against harmful bacteria. Now, if you think about it, hydrochloric acid has a very low pH. So, what do you think is the optimum pH for protease? Okay, the answer is that because proteases need an acidic environment to work, the optimum pH for protease is about pH 2. So the pH of the stomach is about pH 2, which is actually quite acidic, highly acidic, and the proteases work best in an environment of pH 2. Now, after the stomach, we have these few things: the liver, the pancreas, and the small intestine. Okay, so at this diagram here, we have the stomach, and is leading to the small intestine. Now, some of you may have been observant and saw that word over there at the start of this lecture that says that this part here is a pyloric sphincter. So when I say a sphincter is simply a ring of muscle which contracts to allow or to block things from moving. So it's like a gate. There's a gate here. So when the food from the stomach has been more or less digested by the proteases in the stomach, you will then move on to the small intestine. At this point, the liver and the pancreas and the small intestine are going to work together to continue the rule of digestion. So this liver, pancreas, and small intestines, they are connected and they all perform a role to digest food. Let's talk about the pancreas first. The pancreas releases pancreatic juice into the small intestine. So this pancreas here, it releases juice, pancreatic juice into the small intestine. And what is inside the pancreatic juice? It contains all three types of enzymes that can digest carbohydrates, it can digest proteins, and it can digest fats, or also known as lipids. So the pancreas produces enzymes, 3 different enzymes, one for carbohydrate, one for protein, and one for fat. Now, the pancreas has an alternate function, which is to produce insulin, which controls how much sugar there is in our blood. Okay, but this point is not too important right now. What we want to focus on is the enzymes. So we know that the pancreas is producing enzymes. What about the liver and the gallbladder? Okay, the liver is producing bile. And bile is like a detergent. Now, if you have ever washed your own plates, an oily plate, you know how hard it is to wash an oily plate. When you want to wash an oily plate, you have to use detergent. Why is that so? Because detergent helps to emulsify the large fat droplets into small fat droplets. So over here, we have a large oil drop. What happens is that bile will emulsify. Okay, take note of this keyword, is emulsify. We should not be using the term breakdown because that term is specific for enzymes. So the bile would would emulsify the large oil drop into small oil droplets. Okay, and since we are saying this word emulsify, that is also to say that bile itself is not an enzyme. Bile is not an enzyme. It is just a chemical that helps to emulsify large fat droplets. So the liver is the organ which produces bile. But where is the bile stored? The bile is stored in the gallbladder. So in this animation over here, you can see that the liver is producing the bile. Most of the bile is stored in the gallbladder. Some is released into the small intestine. why do you think our body has a way to store bile? That is because when we eat food, we need a lot of bile, but our body cannot be producing bile instantly, right? So like just like when we get ready, we have prepare some things in a container first, then only when we need to use it, we need to use a lot of it, then we can use it up. So when we eat, then the bile can come from the gallbladder and be secreted into the small intestine. Now, the third part of this triangle is the small intestine. So the small intestine would use the bile and the pancreatic juice that it has received from the bile comes from the gallbladder and the pancreatic juice comes from the pancreas. So you will use this together with its own juices. Okay, so it's a bit there's three things working here. We have bile from the gallbladder, we have pancreatic juice from the pancreas, as well as the juice from the small intestine themselves. And this combination of juices would help to digest and absorb most of the nutrients here. So take note of this word here, absorb. This word so far has not appeared in the previous organs. Okay, so the previous organs like the stomach, the mouth, they cannot do absorption. Only the small intestine can perform absorption. And why can it perform absorption? Okay, that's because it is a long tube that contains finger-like cells called villi. So let's look at this cut away diagram here. Over here you can see that the small intestine is lined with many of these villi, small little finger-like cell called villi. And the villi increases the rate of food absorption. How does it do that? That is because the villi increases the surface area to volume ratio in the small intestine. So if we look at this part over here, you can see that there's a lot of molecules, food molecules. Okay, let's wait for the video to return. Zooming in here, the villi, zooming in even more, zoom in more. We have the food molecules that are entering the villi and into the blood. So all these villi, because you have so much of this villi, it is able to quickly absorb the food molecules efficiently into our body. The surface area of the villi is so huge that some scientists would consider if you spread out all these villi, you could almost spread across the entire football field in terms of surface area. So let's look at it one more time. Over here we have the villi, and we have some proteins that have been broken down into amino acids. So let's watch again. The proteins are broken down into amino acids, and then they enter the cell, and from the cell they can then enter into the bloodstream, and this bloodstream will carry it to the liver. Lastly, let's talk about the large intestines. So the large intestine consists of the colon, the rectum, and the anus. The colon absorbs water and mineral salts from undigested food. So we learned that the small intestine absorbs food. So most of the food is absorbed in the small intestine. The excess water would then enter the colon and will be absorbed in the colon. So the colon will absorb water and mineral salts. That's its function. Once most of the water and mineral salts has been absorbed, the food will then enter the rectum. And the rectum is a place where you can store the feces. So you know that humans, we can kind of hold the urge to pass motion. I mean, maybe not that long, but at least for some time. And that is because we have a rectum. So this area is able to store up the feces, and only when the human is ready, then the human can go to the toilet and expel the feces through the anus. In our guts, the gut is another way of saying the large intestine. In our large intestine, we have a lot of good bacteria. So why do we take drinks like Yakult? So you see this, it's called probiotic food. Pro means good, and biotic means living food. So good living food, Yakult, for example. In our large intestine and small intestine, we actually have a lot of good bacteria, and this bacteria helps in digestion of our food. So some of these bacteria actually help to absorb vitamins and minerals into our body. However, there can also be bad bacteria in our large intestine and small intestine. So these bad bacteria may cause diseases like diarrhea or even things like colon cancer. So when we drink probiotics, we are helping the good bacteria to win. Okay, like there's a war between the good and bad bacteria. So when we add more good bacteria, we're helping the good guys to win. And hopefully that will make us healthier. Okay, let's look at this summary of digestive enzymes. We have the two carbohydrates, amylase, which acts on starch to break it down into maltose, and then we have maltose, which acts on maltose. Oops, that is a typo over here. Sorry, the enzyme is called maltase, and the maltase enzyme would digest maltose into glucose. We also have proteases, which break down proteins into amino acids, and lipases, which break down fat into 1 glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Let's recap. So the digestion of starch into maltose. So starch is a long chain. Each of these balls represent 1 glucose molecule. Okay, but when you string them up all together in a long chain, then it is termed as starch. And actually, the formation, the way it's being arranged, also can change it from starch to other forms, okay, which we will cover in another lecture. So when starch is broken down by amylase into maltose, then maltose can be broken down by the enzyme maltase into glucose. So you can see that maltose consists of 2 glucose molecules, and glucose is just individual molecules by themselves. Okay, so it's just from a long chain, become 2, then become solo. Digestion of fat. So fat is broken down by the enzyme lipase into 3 fatty acid molecules and 1 glycerol molecule. Thirdly, we have the small protein molecule. So let's say this is a protein chain. Now the reason why they have different shapes is because they represent different amino acids. There's many types of amino acids, and the protein can be broken down by protease into various amino acids. Okay, but for now we just term them all as amino acids. Okay, so that's the end of part 1 of this video. Stay tuned for part 2. Okay, remember to like and subscribe. Bye.